Hi everyone, I'm Evangeline here at Etrailer. Today we are talking about the Yakima OverNOut awnings. These are going to be the sleek awnings from Yakima that provide a lot of shade without taking up a lot of space. Now if you're planning on maybe hanging out at the soccer game, looking to stay cool, you're at the beach, you're having a picnic, these are going to be some awnings worth looking into. Today we're looking at the small size, which is 4.5 feet in width, but also provides 6.5 feet in length. So a lot of shade in a small awning. Now I've worked with a bunch of different awnings, and at first glance, this looks like any other awning with its overall design. But there's two things that make it a little different compared to the rest. The first one is going to be the way it clamps to your roof rack using easy to use clamps. The second is going to be its really pretty design of the awning fabric. From above, you can see that the awning has this blue, gray, just nice color to it. And it's got a topographical map. A cute little Easter egg that I noticed is that it has coordinates on that map for a location in Yakima, Washington, which is actually where Yakima first started. But beyond that little Easter egg, you can see that whole design just pairs together for a subtle but pretty awning. Now, the other thing to it though is chances are you're not even going to see that design because it's going to be up there providing shade. The material is made of a 420D polyester fabric. What that means is of the different denier fabrics, this is going to be the more lightweight while still being waterproof fabric. So a lot of your more heavier duty tarps will go into the 600D, 1200D, and those are going to be super heavy. This being a bit more lightweight means that it's not as heavy on your roof and it's easier to set up, while again providing the shade and waterproofness. Here in the studio, we have some pretty bright lights. So what I like to do is I like to test how much shade the awning actually brings by putting my hand on top, and then if I can see the shadow, then I know it's pretty see-through. Here, I cannot really see the shadow of my hand, just the indentation of it. And that does show like how much of the light this awning blocks. But also to add to that waterproofness, you do have a polyurethane coating, which you can especially feel underneath here. So those different layers work together to provide more shade, provide more waterproofness. Now, this really is just gonna be a rectangular awning though. So if a quick rainstorm does kick up, you're still gonna get water along the sides. But for just a slight little misting, this should be perfectly fine. I like to sew, so I also like to look at different parts of the awning that shows quality. So things like the tape seams along the corner stitches, the stitchings of the hook and loop strips, whether it's strong or whether they pull away. Here you can see that even as I pull on our hook and loop, usually you can see light through the stitches. Here there's none of that, which does show there's a good attention to detail all throughout the awning, all throughout the hems. Everything looks great. Now besides the fabric, a lot of the awning is made of aluminum, providing that structure and durability. So for example, the legs, you can adjust them up and down for height. And yes, it does support the awning pretty well up, but there are some tips that I have for that. Now, it is nice to have a pretty tall awning because then you have more headroom. But then if water or rain does come down, then it's going to follow the slant of your awning, potentially going towards your vehicle. So my good rule of thumb here is, when possible, have your awning about as tall as your vehicle crossbars to which it's attached to. And speaking of crossbars, this is going to be one of my other favorite features of this awning. Because of its universal clamp design, because of its sleek profile, when fully loaded up, this is only going to take 6 inches of space on your roof. So if you're the type of person that likes to carry other adventure items on there, this is going to allow you to have that space for the cool stuff. And this is what your awning will look like all packed up. So this has a waterproof case, goes over the awning, protects the inside from the elements. You have large zippers that just secure the awning. You also have this buckle over here to keep things tight. I'm not the biggest fan of this buckle since it is a little tricky to loosen it and tighten it down. It does take a little bit of time, but it is there just to keep everything secure. And you can see again how this takes up about 6 inches on your roof rack because it is very sleek. A lot of people like the small and the medium awnings because they fit well on the crossbars. So let's talk about measurements real quick. This will work with crossbars that are at least 24 inches apart, which is ideal for your smaller vehicles or roof racks that sit pretty close together. So measure from one roof rack, measure from the other, and that will tell you your crossbar spread. The reason for that is you want a good enough spread to support all of the awning. So if it's too close together, too much overhang, then you have a little bit more movement than you might like driving down the road. Getting this set up is super easy. So you go ahead and get your bolts. You're gonna slide your bolts through that top track, 1 and 2, and then the bolts are going to line up with your bracket. Then you put a split washer over the bolts, making sure that bracket is flush against that rail, and then go ahead and get your nuts threaded on there. We're going to start by threading them on by hand since we don't exactly know where our crossbar length is going to be. Now it's time to get your awning up to your vehicle. We're going to put this on the overhang actually. And remember how we left those nuts loose? Well, that's good, because now we can adjust the clamps over to where it'll fit right on our vehicle. Tighten down your clamps by turning that knob at the end. You can tighten down these nuts with the included wrench. They give you this little one included with your awning. So go ahead and tighten down those nuts till your split washer flattens out. If you want to use your own tools, you can also grab a 9/16 size wrench. After locking those clamps with your included keys, after that, you're all done. And while this was super easy to set up, the good news is after you set it up the first time, it's even easier than that. Because all you'll need to do is undo the clamps when you have to take it off or put them all back on. It's already set to the length of your crossbars. Until you change vehicles or crossbar lengths, nothing else you really have to do. Now, a question I get a lot when it comes to awnings is, can I set it up all by myself? Because chances are, that's what's gonna happen to you. You're at the soccer game, the kids instantly run off to the field, and you're left all by yourself setting up this awning. Now, technically, you're supposed to do this with 2 people. It's a lot easier that way. But it is doable with just 1 person. In fact, that's how I do all the awnings. So follow along for my guidelines on the best way to set up your Yakima awning all by yourself. Start by undoing your 2 buckles. You can let those hang as you unzip your awning. You're gonna have these 2 hook and loop strips in your awning. You might also have your stakes bag stored inside there, so go ahead and grab that. Support your awning as you undo those straps. Now for this next part, what I actually do is I unfold the awning just a little bit, and then I store the assembly up and over and just rest it on the crossbars. That way, it's out of the way as I take the arms out of their spot inside the awning assembly. So see how these arms are now sticking out? Now I can go ahead and grab that awning and unroll it. As we go out, before I completely pass this by, we're gonna twist this arm and extend it out. Twist this other arm, extend that out. And then that way, when we get all the way to the end, right here, I can store that arm inside our awning. So see how there's a hole there at the very end? Well, we're gonna pull that awning fabric out, pull that pole out too, fit it in, and that's going to provide our support. Twist that pole to lock in place, and then that will hold in place as you go over and do that on the other side. So this is usually the trickiest part about doing it all by yourself. A little bit of multitasking here, holding the awning and holding things up. Now, once that's in place, you can then bring down your legs. So one leg over here, other leg over here, and same concept as those arms. They have the adjustable legs that you tighten down with just a twist. Those legs will keep everything up so that you can just go around and secure your awning to the arms with all these hook and loop patches. The final step is to make sure that your awning is secure. I always recommend awnings, tents, whatever fabric enclosure, please stake them down at all times. And with this awning, you do get 2 guy lines and 2 stakes. So the way this works is you're going to set your leg onto the dirt. That will have a stake to help drive that in. And then you're gonna grab your guy line, tie the end off to the rope in the corner of the awning, ideally with a really good and secure knot. You're then going to get your tensioner, and this tensioner will have a hoop. So with your stake driven down about a foot away from your corner, that hoop will go into that stake, and then you're just gonna adjust the tensioner until you get a good amount of tension in the line. So for that reason, if it is gonna be a windy day, please don't be setting up your awning all by yourself. Have a second person there ready to grab the awning if a gust of wind comes by. And that way you can have everything fully installed all the way to the stake down process safely. Now, if it's not a windy day, that's when you can risk setting this up all by yourself. On that note, obviously we're shooting inside a studio garage so that you can better see the different features of this awning, but sometimes you're also in locations where, similar to our garage here, and you would not be able to drive down the stake into the concrete or parking lot grounds. If that is the case, you can still secure your awning by securing those guy lines to heavy items, like stake sandbags. You can find those available here at Etrailer, or anything reliably heavy enough to secure your awning to. But if you like this awning, remember, if you need help figuring out which one is the best hit for your vehicle, check out our product pages full of descriptions and specs to help you out. Or give us a call to just get that process jump started. But today, this was a look at the Yakima OverNOut awning at etrailer.com.